Chapter 5. I don't exactly need another reminder that Ravenbrooks is weird. Between the llama farm and the not quite a grocery store, not to mention the whole golden apple tragedy hidden in the woods. This town is bonkers. It's eclectic, Dad says as we pass a woman walking her dog in a baby sling. There's not a mall within 30 miles, I complain. The square has at least 5 stores that sell clothes. It's going to be all organic cotton and canvas stuff. There's a display in the natural grocer with straw fedoras and scratchy hemp sandals. You don't know what it's going to be like until you see it, Dad says about the square, but even he doesn't sound convinced. I'm going to look like freaking Davy Crockett on the first day of school. Why don't you just tie a piece of twine around my waist for a belt? It's bad enough Mum swapped my pudding packs for homemade granola. I'm not bringing that in my lunch. Dad, seriously, it's not happening. Whoa, Dad says, looking both wounded and tickled. He pulls into a parking space in the square and turns to me before I can escape the car. Where's all this coming from, Narf? I think about bolting, but I see Dad's finger on the power lock. I mean, I've barely met anyone yet, I say. What if... This is always the hard part. Finding a way to tell my dad that I understand why we have to start over again. That I know it's not his fault that his job is hard to keep. It's just that every time we move, it gets harder to be invisible. Remember when we moved to Reading? I ask Dad. He nods, listening intently. Remember how I wore that Reading Rock shirt on the first day? The one with the granite? Dad smiles. A good pun is never wasted on him. But at school, a kid asked me if I shopped for my clothes at the airport. I never told Dad about that. It's nothing, is what I say to him now. But I draw the line at puns. No clever shirts. Dad cocks his head to the side, but I get out of the car before he can prolong this conversation. The square really is a square. There's a giant copper fountain in the middle of it. 3 enormous dancing apples with long spindly arms and legs are supposed to look like they're playing, but the way their faces are carved makes them look almost vicious. It's super unsettling, but no one else seems to be as bothered as I am. Little kids fling pennies into the water and balance along the low brick wall that surrounds the sculpture. Along the perimeter of the square, shops line up side by side facing the fountain. Restaurants ranging from casual to fancy make up the corners of each side. And the shops seem to be separated by theme. A side for really little kids, then kids my age, then adults, then the sort of catch-all, knick-knack stores my mum would say are full of more stuff I'll have to dust on a shelf. Ooh, they have a Wellington Hamel. Dad's eyes sparkle against the reflection of the fountain as he gazes upon the expensive desk ornaments and massage chairs and rushes inside to join every other dad in Ravenbrooks. After 20 minutes, he's nearly convinced himself that he needs a stress-reducing foam figurine called the Gnome, when a guy I don't know comes up behind him. We've already got you stressed out enough for the Gnome, he asks. Dad turns and laughs, clapping the guy on the shoulder. Even if you did, it's not like you're paying me enough to afford anything in this place. Now they're both laughing, and I see an equally uncomfortable kid lingering behind the guy who apparently knows how much money my dad isn't making at the Ravenbrooks banner. He and my dad seem to suddenly remember us. Oh, and hey, this must be Enzo, my dad says, extending his hand on to the kid, who takes it politely. Nice to meet you, the kid says. Then Dad pulls me forward and presents me. This is Nicky. Dad! I cringe. Sorry, Nick. This is Nick Nuff. This is Nigel Esposito, the college roommate I told you and Mum about, the one who told me about the job. We were lucky your dad was available, says Nigel. And I can tell he's a nice guy, because he finds an easy way around my dad's unemployment. Hey, Enough. I think you and Enzo were the same age. 8th grader, right? He asks Enzo, who nods. Maybe you two will share some classes, Mr. Esposito says, and Enzo and I look at each other and shrug. Parents always say stuff like that, then look at kids like we'll have the answers. If you like the gnome, you should check out the gremlin, Mr. Esposito says to Dad. Twice the price, but it's a pen too. They run off to play with their old people novelties and leave Enzo and me with exactly 2 things in common. I don't get it, says Enzo. This is the same kind of garbage they sell in aeroplane catalogues. But Dad says those are a waste of money. I chuckle like I've never been on an aeroplane before. Anywhere we've ever gone has been a few days' drive away, and Dad and Mum never met a motel. They didn't think it was charming. They're road trippers through and through. We're supposed to be buying me clothes, I say, and Enzo's nice like his dad because he doesn't ever flick his eyes down to see how worn my shirt is. Come on, he says, walking ahead of me. My friend's brother works at Gia, across the square. He's always scoring us stuff for really cheap. Gia doesn't look like the kind of place I should be shopping, but after Enzo has an exchange with the guy behind the counter who lifts his chin at me, Enzo tells me to grab a few shirts and pairs of shorts. Are you sure? I ask, my embarrassment fighting it out with my ego because these clothes look normal and they smell new, and at least I won't be wearing a blinking neon sign saying, I'm new, on the first day of school. Yeah, says Enzo like it's no big deal. This is pretty much the only place to shop around here. I mean, unless you want to rock a straw hat, right from the grocery store. Dude, I tried on those shorts once. It felt like I was wearing pants made of mosquitoes. I was scratching my butt for weeks. People thought I had diaper rash. He laughs. Unholy aliens, this guy must be untouchable if he can survive a diaper rash humour. It's weird too, because aside from the normal clothes and gleaming white shoes, Enzo's just as much of a weirdo as me. It's nothing obvious, just something a fellow weirdo knows. His smile is totally unrestrained. He walks a little too fast too. We leave the clothes at the counter for my dad to buy later and head across the square to the gamer's grotto. I try to ignore the dancing apples in the fountain, but they're impossible to avoid. Creepy, right? Enzo says. I thought it was just me. I don't know why they don't just take it down after what happened, he says, shaking his head. I didn't make the connection till now. The dancing apples are an homage to the factory that built the park that left a hole in Raven Brooks wide enough to fall through. It seems like no matter how much I try to skirt the issue that no one wants to talk about, it's impossible not to topple down that hole. The tragedy of Golden Apple Amusement Park has clouded the entire town. Now that I'm closer, I can see a small plaque has been added to the sculpture, a memorial protected behind glass. It's Lucy Yee, posed against the standard school picture backdrop, her straight black hair smoothed behind a thin headband. Her hand is propped under her chin, a gold bracelet with a gleaming apple charm dangling from the links in a painful show of irony. Below her picture reads, In loving memory, Lucy Yee, 1985 to 1992. The sound of girls laughing wafts over my head, and for just a second, I swear it's coming from behind the glass of Lucy Yee's memorial. Then one of them says, I dare you to go say hi. And I look across the square and see a group of younger girls crowded around a table at the frozen yogurt shop. The shortest one emerges, snapping one of her friends away, then brushing the hair from her face to wave to me. I recognize Maya and wave back before turning again to the fountain. Did you know her? I ask Enzo, the little girl who... Enzo looks down and nods. Everyone did. Then he looks up with a crooked smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes, then in the direction of Maya and her friends. Welcome to Raven Brooks, where everyone knows everyone. Then he claps me on the shoulder like his dad did to my dad and pulls me closer. Whether you want to know him or not, He chuckles, but I don't think he was kidding. But enough about that, he says. Now we game. He'll get zero argument from me on that front. I may not know all there is to know about Ravenbrooks or golden apples or expensive clothes, but I speak fluent gaming. Dad and Nigel lean against the coffee stand outside, reliving their college days, while Enzo and I fight for territory in mortal realm until my eyes blur. I've nearly forgotten that I'm the shiny new kid when I see Aaron from the corner of my eye entering the grotto. He stalks in quietly, but I feel like the whole place comes to a standstill as soon as he steps through the door. I lift my chin at him and give him a little half wave. But I don't think he sees me because he just walks behind a display of remote-control cars locked in a glass case. You know him? Enzo asks me, and I can't tell if he's impressed or disappointed. Yeah, he lives across the street from me, I say, watching Enzo carefully before adding, he's cool. Enzo doesn't say anything. He just sets the remote down on the console and edges around me to look for his dad. You guys hang out? Enzo asks, not looking at me. Yeah, I say, knowing that's not the right answer, and I can feel the slim chance of normality slipping away from me. The thing is, up until now, Aaron's been the only one who actually wanted to hang out with me, and I'm not about to sell him out just because Enzo is, well, whatever Enzo is. I still can't get a read on what's bothering him about Aaron. Just watch your back around him, Enzo says, and all the confidence he exhibited earlier seems to melt away. That's what's bothering him. He's afraid of Aaron. What, does he kill cats or something? I heard once that's how you know someone's going to be a serial killer. I don't know, Enzo says, and I swear to the aliens he's actually not sure. He has like 3 cats around his house at all times, I say, and I can't believe I have to convince Enzo that my new friend isn't a serial killer. He's really nice, I say, although nice isn't quite how I describe Aaron now that I think about it. Still, he's no Jack the Ripper. But it's clear to me that there's no convincing Enzo. He's already picking up his shopping bag and abandoning the game he was going to buy. I follow him out the door and toward our dads, who have actual tears in their eyes from laughing so hard. Oh man, why is it taking us this long to get back in touch? My dad says to Mr. Esposito, absently ruffling my hair. I don't know, but I'm glad you're here, Mr. Esposito says, and Enzo and I scuff our shoes on the ground until the dads finally give each other a half handshake, half hug, and say they'll see each other on Monday. Did you find some clothes? Dad asks, and I nod, guiding him toward gear and away from Gamer's Grotto, where I can't see Aaron at all anymore. Enzo seems nice, Dad says, and he's right. Enzo does seem nice, but I'm not thinking about how nice Enzo is right now. I'm thinking about how afraid he seemed of Aaron, how surprised he was that I wasn't afraid. I pretend to be in a good mood on the way home, but I do it for Dad. I haven't seen him like this for a long time. When I get to my room, though, I don't even want to pull the tags of my new clothes or work on my audio manipulator, basically my coolest invention yet, to the untrained eye. It's a simple microphone, but when the unsuspecting speaker talks into the microphone, bam! Fart noises. It's part of my bodily functions line of inventions. I was hoping that the trip to the square would help me take my mind off of my bizarre night with Aaron. But between the fountain shrine to Lucy Yee and the way Enzo reacted to seeing Aaron, it's like the universe is begging me to relive it. I keep thinking back to the look on Enzo's face when he saw Aaron, how he drew me away from how he drew away from me when I told him we were friends. Sure, Aaron's family is a little weird, and his dad almost made me have an accident on their kitchen floor, but it wasn't Mr. Peterson who walked into the grotto today. It wasn't Mr. Peterson I had to convince Enzo wasn't a serial killer. It was Aaron. And if Enzo was afraid, it's hard for me not to wonder if I should be afraid too. Chapter 6. Aaron and I are doing reconnaissance, which is a cooler way of saying we're doing research. That might make my scientist mother and journalist father proud if it were reconnaissance for science or journalism. But Aaron and I are doing research for my fart machine. Okay, walk me through it one more time, Aaron says. It's an audio-initiated voice manipulator programmed to distort the vocal reception based on tonal input. It's by far my most sophisticated machine to date, something I haven't had a lot of time to play with ever since Aaron and I started spending every waking minute picking locks at the factory. To be honest, it feels good to be sharing something with Aaron that I know how to do better than him. Aaron presses the top of his head like it hurts. So how does it work? I just told you, I say, trying not to get frustrated. No, you just said a bunch of words and strung them together into a sentence. That doesn't mean you explained anything. How do you know so much about locks and you can't follow the mechanics of an audio manipulator? How do you keep talking so much without making any sense? Boys, if you don't mind, I would prefer you maintain a peaceful tone in my store. My patrons have come to expect a heightened state of consciousness when they visit. Aaron tries to stuff a laugh, but it escapes in a snort. I elbow his rib and shove him behind a display of healing crystals. Sorry, Mrs. Tillman. The natural grocer is the first place our reconnaissance has taken us. We're in need of supplies, and we have reason to believe we'll find the best ones here. Mrs. Tillman smiles a tight smile and turns with the stiffness of someone who commands herself to relax. Heightened state of consciousness? Aaron hisses. Dude, quiet down. The only heightened anything in here are her wackadoodle prices. She used to buy goat cheese from the llama guy and let Girl Scouts sell cookies under her awning. Goat cheese? I ask. Yeah, I guess he's got goats too. Anyway, that's not the point, Aaron says. She used to be nice. Then she goes to this silent retreat, doesn't talk for 2 weeks, and when she does come back, she's selling all these expensive bogus vitamins and $5 sweet bars. He puts air quotes around sweet bars, and I have to laugh because this is the first time I've ever seen Aaron get vocally worked up about anything, and apparently he's got it out for phony, new age capitalism. I pick up a bar from a large end cap display. The bar is way heavier than it should be, and indeed it's marked £4.95. The word Survivor emblazoned across the packaging. Are these the fart bars? Aaron snorts again. Yeah, seriously, you've never smelled anything like it. Picture a toxic waste dump filled with dirty diapers in a sulphur pit. We each grab the 3 bars before making our way to the counter. It's 6 weeks' worth of allowance, but it's money well spent, all in the name of research. $32.95, Mrs. Tillman says, this time not even bothering with her tight smile. Thanks, Mrs. Tillman, Aaron says, matching her frown with an extra wide smile. The drugstore by the square sells sweet bars that might be more within your budget, she says before handing us a paper bag, and this time she does smile. On the way back to Aaron's house, I turn to him so we'll be testing out the audio synthesizer at the natural grocer. Absolutely, Aaron says. Good, I say. Good, he says. That night, after 2 Survivor bars and Mum's famous cabbage rolls, I'm passing enough gas to rocket me to Mars. If only my audio synthesizer were complete, I'd be able to test it, but like a dummy, I left my power drill at Aaron's house. And besides, he's the only one with a recorder. Just then, like it can hear my thoughts, the high whir of a drill floats across the street from the direction of Aaron's house. Oh man, I grumble, stumbling toward the window. You're gonna burn out the battery. I haven't unpacked any charger yet, and because I sort of ignored Mum's warning to label all my boxes, it's anybody's guess where or when it'll turn up. I cup my hands against the window and peer across the street to Aaron's room, but his bedroom light is off. If he's messing with my drill, he's doing it somewhere else in the house. Since I'm way too bloated to go to sleep anytime soon, I slide my window open and pop the screen from its frame. The turquoise house came equipped with with an unexpected bonus right outside my room. A trellis sturdy enough to act as a ladder. I'm not exactly the kind of kid who sneaks out of the house when his parents are sleeping, but it's just across the street, just to retrieve my drill. Besides, it's easier than waking my parents up and explaining why I need the drill anyway. I hear the whir of the drill again, but it stops by the time I'm across the street. The streetlight in front of my house flickers, and for a second I'm standing on Aaron's lawn in the dark. It's the first time I've been here this late at night, and it occurs to me that I haven't been invited. The light in Aaron's room is still off, and suddenly it feels like I've gone from hanging out to trespassing. The drill revs up again, and I see the faintest light seeping out from the crack of the basement door. The streetlight flickers back on, and I find myself standing closer to the boarded-up basement door than I realised I was. I peer closer at the parade of locks. Only what I see now, that I'm closer, is more unsettling than any lock. There are handprints all over the door, smears of black grease that creep around the edge of the door, half covered by the boards and bolts, some with tiny scratches at the tips of the fingerprints, like claw marks made by dragging fingernails. Suddenly, the drill's motor cuts out, and the whir sputters, the telltale sign of a dying battery. Then a heavy footfall lands on the steps leading up from the basement, methodically making their way up the stairs, straight for the door. I bolt as fast as I can across the streetlight clicking off just as I reach my house, and all at once I can't see the trellis against the wall. I hear the rattle of locks behind me, thumping against the heavy basement doors. They're slowly unlocked. Groping through the vines in my front yard, I finally find a wooden slat and grab hold of it, wedging my foot in the one beside it before pulling myself up into the window. I reach the ledge of my windowsill just as the streetlight clicks on again. Just as I hear the basement door swing open behind me, I don't turn around. I fall through the open window and take cover on the floor, my heart pounding against the floorboards as I listen for movement across the street. Heavy footfalls thud against the grass, muffled in the humid, still night. The air is so dense, it feels like whoever is across the street is stealing my breath. The footsteps leave the grass and move to the sidewalk, closer, their soles cracking over the tiny pebbles on the asphalt. I squeeze my eyes shut and wait for whoever is outside my window to say something, to clamp onto the trellis and climb into my room, to laugh, to do anything at all. Instead, the person with the heavy step stands perfectly still in the middle of the road, waiting. I don't know how much time passes. Maybe a minute, maybe an hour. All I know is that just when I think I'm going to die of suffocation from all that thick air, the steps recede to the sidewalk, then to the lawn, then to the basement door, where the hinges creak to a close and the locks secure whatever secret is worth locking up in Aaron's basement. I peer over the windowsill, and when I'm not so sure no one is still lying in wait in the middle of the street, I resecure my screen and close my window. I lock the latch, but I wish I had a few more locks than that. It wasn't Aaron. I'm positive of that. Whoever wanted me to know they knew I was here, I was there. They had a much heavier step, a heavier frame. Bigger bones, I whisper, and a chill rattles my whole body. Because whatever Mr. Peterson is doing in his basement, he wants to be sure I know it's none of my business. There's no doubt in my mind. Tonight was a warning from my new friend's dad. And Mr. Peterson doesn't strike me as the type to warn someone twice. Chapter 7. The rattle on my trellis wakes me from a restless sleep. It was the grocery store again, the cold metal grid of the cart against my bare legs, the towers of canned goods, the giant brown doors with their rubber stoppers on the ground. I got out of the cart this time, and when I pushed the doors open, I didn't see the grocery aisles that I thought I would. It was just endless tunnels in every direction, dark, winding passages leading to nowhere. I've never felt more afraid. I overheard my grandma once say to my mum, "Keep a leash on that wolf. He sees too much at night." For as much as I've always hated my nightmares, my grandma hated them more. which is strange because I never even told her about them. She always just knew. I wish my mum had figured out how to put that leash on me. Between the nightmare and the spectre of Mr. Peterson still too close to ignore, I launched myself from my bed and head straight for the window, determined to face down whatever threat is rattling the trellis. Except there's no one there. Must have been a cat, I tell myself. The neighbourhood cats have taken to climbing the trellis lately, a fun new development to set my already frayed nerves on edge. I'm just about to go back to bed when I hear the crinkle of paper. I open the window and lift the screen from the frame, leaning as far as I can over my window without falling out. There, trapped between a rung of the trellis and the vines that weave through it, is a carefully folded piece of notebook paper. I teeter out onto the trellis, still shaky from my dream, and my foot loses its grip on the slat just above the piece of paper. I catch myself, but barely, and I'm rewarded with a sharp scratch from a splintered adjacent rung. I grasp the note, holding it in my mouth until I've climbed back to my window and replaced the screen. 8 p.m, Llama Farm. Don't be late. I smile, even though my hands are still shaking from my climb and my arm is burning with a new scrape and my head is still swimming with visions of dark, endless tunnels. I arrive at 7:59. Aaron is already there, lying in wait, pick in hand. Ready? He asks. I have no idea, I say. Well, just answer me this. Can you be stealth? Yes? I need a firm commitment here, Nicky. I've never seen Aaron more serious, which is why I can't keep myself from laughing. Dude, this is mission critical. Navy SEAL level action. I need to know, are you in? I pull myself together as best I can. Okay, let's do this. Here's the thing. Once Aaron discovered I was good with gadgets, a world of opportunity in this strange yet boring town seemed to open up. Cranky Mrs. Bevel restores old doll heads, so of course we had to find a way to pipe creepy voices into her shop. Look, if you're going to own a store filled with antique doll parts, you're kind of already set up for terror. It was so easy once Aaron convinced her he was looking for something to replace the head on his mum's broken Madame Alexander doll. I put a plug here, and a switch there, and poof, haunted doll heads chanting, "We're lonely and come play with us." And Mr. Quinn lets his dog poop on Aaron's lawn practically every morning, and he never picks it up. All Aaron had to do was throw a ball into his backyard to get Mr. Quinn to step away from his mailbox for a few minutes. It was the perfect opportunity to test out my spring-loaded catapult in his mailbox, the weapon of choice. A nice soft ball of dog turd was really just poetic justice. Anyway, as far as I can tell, Farmer Llama never did anything deserving of the Robin Hood level justice we've been doling out, so I'm not altogether certain what we're doing here. But Aaron is 100% dialed in, and he's not in a place to be questioned at this second. Aaron spends half his time looking over his shoulder, even though I'm the lookout. Just focus on the lock, I say. Give me some space. Any closer, you'll be on my shoulders, he says. And holy aliens, Aaron is nervous. This is the first time I've ever seen him nervous during a prank. You know we're both going to be in so much trouble if we get caught, right? I say, wiping a bead of sweat from my hairline. Nope, he says, not getting caught. Come on, you can't pull a prank on a llama farm without attracting attention. Llamas are too cute. Mess with llamas, pay the consequences. It's just common sense. I ramble. Number 1, he says. No one ever said anything about doing anything to the llamas. We're after something of more symbolic value. The llamas are off limits. Try the bump key, I say, and Aaron looks annoyed, but he tries it anyway. Number 2, he continues. I thought you only answered to your space alien overlords. True, I concede. We are ruled by a race of distant space overlords who will one day rain down their fury upon us lowly earthlings, so I guess we might as well seize the day. I still don't get it, he says. I thought your family was Jewish. We are. So you guys, believe that we're ruled by aliens? I'm sure I could convince at least one rabbi that it's a possibility. I crowd him again. Maybe you should use the rake. The bump isn't going to work. Aaron positions a hammer over the key. You're never going to get the leverage you need with that, I say. I don't need leverage, he says, when I've got torque. He takes a deep breath and brings the hammer down on the key. With a thud, the old padlock drops to the ground. Aaron smiles. By my count, that's 3 for me and 1 for you this week. Hey, as far as I can tell, you've got zero excuse for not being a master lockbreaker by now. You've got a house full of locks. Jeez, you could practice on that basement door outside your house and become a pro in a day if you weren't so lazy. Somewhere along the way, we must have stopped joking, though, because by the time I turn around, Aaron's face has turned to stone. What? I ask, a knot forming in my stomach. Nothing. Let's just get this over with, okay? He says. And I open the gate with far less joy than I felt a minute ago. The tension is short-lived, though. The enormity of our mission unfolds before us once we're in Farmer Llama's field. Aaron looks at me. Stealth, he whispers. I nod in response. We make our way along the fence line, wary of the farm owner, whose name we don't know, so we've just been calling him Farmer Llama. He's rarely seen in public, occasionally at the natural grocer. Evidently, he's not the type to hold a grudge, or out in the field grumbling at them. And I swear to the aliens, they sound like they grumble back. What's got me on edge is that, unlike Mr. Quinn or Mrs. Bevel, we haven't been able to assess Farmer Llama's comings and goings. What if Farmer Llama's in the barn? I whisper. Then we took a wrong turn. Aaron shrugs. Through his padlocked chain-link fence. We take a few more steps before Aaron hisses. Heads up! We fall to the ground like snipers behind a barricade. Footsteps approach quickly, their pace increasing the closer they get. I read my excuses. We're selling sweets for our baseball league. We're with the future farmers of America. We want to mow his lawn. This is it, I whimper. Mum, Dad, I love you. Please don't send me to military school. Quiet, Aaron whispers, but he's laughing so hard he farts, and now I can't keep it in. And oh well, it was a good life, I suppose. The footsteps come to an abrupt halt a couple of yards away. Aaron rises from the grass first and snorts. I stand to myself, eye to eye with a dusty grey llama. Why do they sound so human when they walk? Aaron asks. I've asked myself that same question so many times. Come on, Aaron says, dusting off the grass. Let's just ignore the llama? Right, he says. I salute him. Roger that. I nod. Stealth. The llama burps. So what are we looking for? I ask. The barn, Aaron says, and we both look at the field in front of us. I count 5 barns, all identical in size and faded shade of blue. Can you be more specific? More footsteps, and out of the tall grass emerges a dark brown llama to accompany the first. Hey, look, he brought a friend, I say. Can we focus, please? Aaron says, and I can tell he's getting nervous again. But I can't help myself. We make it halfway across the field before we realise we've attracted a small crowd. At least 5 llamas follow us toward a small blue outbuilding at the edge of the field. I can't contain my laughter. What? I think we left Stealth back there by the gate, in case you hadn't noticed. We've got groupies now. A llama sneezes, spraying the side of my arm. Anyway, we're almost to the barn, right? I say. But just as we approach the outbuilding, I hear a voice in the distance. Maggie? Frank? What the dickens are you all doing out there? At first I think he's talking to us, but 2 of the llamas turn in his direction when they hear his voice. Shoot! Go, go, go! I drop to the ground and army crawl on the itchy grass toward the little blue building. Joey! Cindy! Where the devil are you? I keep expecting people to pop out of the nearby buildings, but no. Clearly, Maggie, Frank, Joey and Cindy are the llamas steadily chewing a path at our tail, giving away our location with every second they linger. Now or never, Nicky, Aaron whispers, and this time I can tell he's not goading me on. Whatever this stupid mess is, we're in it together. I crawl until my pants fill with dry grass, and in an act of awesome bravery, pointless idiocy, I leap to a stand and swing around the corner of the outbuilding, Aaron following close behind. We stand there panting, backs against the clapboard wall of the barn, and all at once I see Aaron's eyes light up in the dark. "What?" I ask under my breath. "That's it," he says, and his face breaks into a smile. I can't see what he's so happy about. It's just the inside of a barn wall. But whatever it is, it's what we came here for tonight. Seconds later, I hear heavy boots crush the overgrowth where we were just hiding. "It's dinner time," a gravely voice says from so close by. I can hear him wheeze. We go silent, not even daring to exhale. I squeeze my eyes shut, willing myself to be invisible. One of the llamas grunts. "Now don't you take that tone with me," Farmer Llama says, and I elbow Aaron hard in the ribs while he bites his hand to keep from losing it. More shuffling in the grass, and finally one of the llamas offers a more agreeable sound. "All right, that's more like it," he says, and his boots kick their way through the tall grass. One by one, his llamas follow their master, grumbling as they go. Once we're sure he's left the barn and we can't hear the llamas nearby, Aaron emerges from the barn first, signalling me to head through the stall to the area he was smiling at a minute ago. We stare down at it, a pile of identical tin signs stacked high in the corner of the barn. "What did he even need this many for?" Aaron asks. I look anxiously over my shoulder at the barn door. "You're sure he's not going to miss it?" "Nicky, he has like 1,000,000, he says, and I know he's right, even if what we're doing feels a little wrong. Keep off the main roads, snaking through side roads and side yards, avoiding streetlights like kryptonite." The sign tucked under my arm as I bring up the rear while Aaron forges a safe path. Back at home that night, I scratch my belly raw. Little red bumps have begun to spring up, and I finally have to ask Mum where the cortisone cream is. "What in God's name did you do to yourself?" she gasps, reaching for the scratches as I yank my shirt down. "Poison oak," I say, which is completely unsatisfactory. "Poison oak? But it's only on your stomach." She side-eyes me. "It's personal, okay?" I invoke the ultimate excuse, the explanation that kills any adolescent inquiry dead. Mum backs away with her hands up. I don't want to know. It's my second victory of the day. I wait until I hear the television click off in my parents' room, and their soft, intermingled snoring fills the air before I pull the dented tin sign from under my bed. I gaze upon my prize. St. Nick's Lovely Llamas. We had no choice but to take the sign. It was literally calling my name, but actually it called to Aaron first. It was my name, and he answered the call, planning a heist that would only have special meaning for me. We've never stayed in one place long enough for me to make a good friend. That night, I toss and turn, worried about how long it will take for my family to leave Ravenbrooks, just like we've left everywhere else. Chapter 8. By late July, we've picked our way through most of the locks at the Golden Apple factory. I've gotten almost as good as Aaron, but I don't feel the need to tell him that. He already knows. Most of the time, I think he's glad about it, but sometimes, like today, I think maybe he's jealous. Imagine that. A kid jealous of Nicholas Roth, the new kid, the Narfinator, the one who knows every Twilight Zone episode by heart. Thanks, Dad. And every element on the periodic table. Thanks, Mum. The one who likes sushi better than cheeseburgers and likes girls who are taller than him and thinks Talking Heads is still the best band there ever was. I don't care what anyone says. You planning to bust that lock this century, or should I start rationing food? Aaron says behind me. Yeah, he's definitely jealous. I told you to eat your breakfast, I say in my best mum voice. Eat this, he says, leaning in to punch me in the shoulder, but I spring the lock just in time to swing open the door, and he stumbles through and lands squarely in a pile of bubble wrap packing. It seems we found the shipping department. I laugh so hard I think I'm going to rupture something, and eventually Aaron does laugh too. Welp, nothing to see here, I say, shoving a box of packing peanuts aside. Not so fast, Aaron says, mesmerised as every human on earth is by the simple act of popping a sheet of plastic bubbles. Once we exhaust an entire roll of bubble wrap, we both are really hungry, and we make our way back to the room that used to be the elephant's graveyard of electronics before we picked it clean. Now we refer to it as the office. We left an operating TV and VCR in there after we discovered that the generator that powers the conveyor belt powers electricity for some of the second floor offices as well. Aaron's amassed a sizable library of movies, thanks to an obsession he has about recording them when they air. His timing for catching the best movies is freakishly good. Throw in a couple of cushy executive chairs pilfered from the nicest offices, and we have our very own media room. Aaron rummages around in a filing cabinet and pulls out a bag of cheese crackers and a couple of sodas. You seriously have rations? I say, tearing into the crackers. I pause for a second when I hear skittering behind the wall beside me. Great, now the rats know we have crackers. I like to be prepared, Aaron says. The end is nigh. He laughs a ghoulish laugh and I roll my eyes, and things feel normal again. As normal as they can around Aaron. That's why it feels like the right time to ask him about how everyone acted when he walked into the Gamer's Grotto at the square. It's been a few weeks, but I haven't been able to shake the memory. I went clothes shopping with my dad, I offer. Sounds riveting, he says. It was all right. A kid named Enzo hooked me up with some pretty cool stuff, I say, easing into what I really want to ask him. Aaron doesn't say anything, though. He just fiddles with the metal tab on his soda can. I think he said he knows you, I say, trying again. This time Aaron looks up. He doesn't know anything. Just like that, I've hit a nerve. Instead of backing off, I decide to press on it. Yeah, so what's up with the way everyone seems? I don't know. He eyes me carefully. Weird around you, I say, but that's not really what I want to say. I want to say scared around you. I want to ask him why I'm not afraid of him. I want to ask him if that makes me a chump, the would-be victim of a C-list horror movie. You didn't, kill a cat or something, did you, I ask? And I don't know how to follow that up, so I say, 'cause I like cats. Aaron looks at me like the aliens have already arrived. Like I'm their alien spawn, like I have tubes for ears and antenna for eyes, and a long forked tongue that I use for catching and eating the human race I used to be a part of. Why would I kill a cat? He asks, and his question lays bare how stupid my question sounds. I don't know, I say lamely. Enzo stopped hanging out with me because he'd rather play video games, Aaron says quietly, wiggling the tab of his soda can until it comes off. He flicks it across the room into an old wastebasket. He doesn't have to say anymore. I can hear every single word he's left out. Enzo would rather play his expensive video games that his successful dad can buy him because his dad has a job. And that job isn't going away. It's yet one more thing I can't figure out how to bring up with Aaron. That his dad is always around, even during the day. Like how my dad is around all day when he's between jobs. There are reasons why the Enzos of the world don't hang out with Aarons and the Nickies of the world. They don't have to be good reasons or fair reasons, but they are always reasons. Too bad, I think. Enzo seemed okay. I let out a massive belch that echoes across the empty factory floor. I don't even like video games that much, I say. It's a humongous lie, and Aaron knows it. But for the first time all day, he looks relaxed, like a tiny bit of the 12-year-old he is has started to seep back in. Later at Aaron's house, though, the lightness that seemed to free Aaron of some massive burden that afternoon disappears once again under the weight of his family. Everyone at the Peterson house is in a bad mood. I thought it was just his mum, who met us at the door, then floated away without saying a word. Then, after taking too much time removing my rat poop, shoes, and placing them outside the door, I lost track of Aaron and practically ran straight into Maya in the hallway. She was looking over her shoulder, and when she turned and saw me, she jumped back about a foot. "Geez, Nicky, don't be such a creeper." "I'm not. I have to go," she said, hurrying out the door with one more furtive glance over her shoulder, not at me but behind me. I turned to see what she was looking for, but all I saw were the shadows that lie in the twists and turns of the Petersons' house. Now, as we sit in Aaron's room tinkering with the lock on an old chain we scrounged from a construction site, I wait for Aaron to say something. Anything. Because we've been sitting here in dead silence for over an hour. My parents got a letter from the school. I have my class schedule, but I don't know who any of the teachers are, so it's pretty much meaningless. Aaron grunts. "I had a life sciences teacher at my last school," I say. "She had this thing about rabbits. Like, she had about a dozen at home, and she was constantly worrying about them. Sometimes she even brought them to class because she was afraid they'd be lonely, but I always kind of thought it was more so she wouldn't be lonely." "So, yeah, I thought that was weird." I clear my throat. Aaron stares out the window. "The alien overlords came to see me last night. They brought me aboard their vessel and threatened to melt my brain into soup unless I promised to become a secret alien agent and share top-secret human intelligence with them." "Yup," Aaron mutters, still staring out the window. "So then you'll help me?" "Huh? Become an alien-human double agent? Man, what are you talking about? What's up with you? You've been out of it ever since we left the factory," I say. Aaron looks back out the window. I'm about to give up and go home when he says, "Have you ever thought that maybe you were—" "What?" "Nothing. Never mind," Aaron says, looking down. "What, like a merman?" No. I've never thought that maybe I was a merman. I mean, I like to swim and all. I'm not half bad at it either. There was this lake near—" Aaron chuckles despite himself. "Weirdo." Now that, yeah. I thought I was a weirdo before. Often, actually. Aaron finally looks at me. "Have you ever thought you were bad?" It sounds like such a simple question. I know it should have a simple answer, but Aaron and I both know it's not that simple. I mean, we play pranks on people. I think that's probably not upstanding citizen good, I say, Mum's refrain of using my powers for good once again pushing its way into my mind. "No, but I mean really bad," Aaron says, looking back down at the floor. "My dream washes over me, the one I have practically every night but try not to let myself remember during the daytime. The one in the store surrounded by food lined up on the shelves. The room is dark. I'm alone. And even though I have no idea why, I know beyond a doubt that it's my fault I'm there. I think I did something bad once." I say it before I know I'm saying it. It's like I'm hearing myself talk from across the room. "You don't know?" Aaron asks, looking hard at me now, searching me for a lie. "I don't remember," I say, a truth I've never admitted to anyone before. "It's just this dream I have. It changes sometimes, but I always wind up in the same place, like I was put there or something." "So how do you know you did something wrong?" Aaron asks. I think about it for a minute, and when my brain quiets to a whisper, all I hear is my grandmother's voice. "You stop that wondering, or one day you won't make it home." "Because sometimes I go where I'm not supposed to," I say. "Sometimes I go too far." Now we're both looking out the window, and I wonder what Aaron's bad dreams look like. If he feels as alone as in his as I do in mine, I don't think just because you do bad things, it makes you a bad person, Aaron says after a long stretch of silence. All of a sudden, it occurs to me that I still haven't found out why Aaron was so weird about the Golden Apple amusement park last month. My mind is racing with thoughts of a prank gone awry. Could Aaron have done something to the roller coaster that made it crash? But I stop myself before I get too far. Pulling a prank is one thing, but bringing down a roller coaster at 9 years old? It's not possible. But if he's not talking about that, then what is he talking about? What does make a person bad then? I ask. Aaron shoves his hands in his pockets like he's embarrassed. Then, so quietly I can barely hear him, he says, being happy when bad things happen. I watch Aaron's face for any clues into what he could mean, but his expression is as flat as his tone. Then he looks at me and smiles, and it's the old Aaron again, the one who planned a mission just for me to get a sign with my name on it, who carved a safe path through the town of Ravenbrooks just so I could get home safely with a 2x2-foot tin treasure. He's my friend, an actual friend. Whatever he did or thinks he did, I've got his back. I'm hungry, I say. Let's go to get some tacos.